I just want to give people the real deal. Now, like, I don't want you to watch the video that got 1.2 million views and was total BS.
Laundromats are not your first business.
Well, the main one was mystery shopping. We got noticed, made the New York Times twice.
That's awesome.
Believe it or not, this space was in Vogue. This is only 1,500 square feet. I just don't have the physical space. You only have to conquer a small area. I really just have to get a couple of towns. So one of the things that I did was I joined the Chamber of Commerce. I just try to be involved in the community. You got to give them a reason to support you. And when people see the little library, maybe you're in the local paper, they like that. I think Sam Walton said it, the founder of Walmart.
Yeah.
Without the customer, you don't have anything. Because if I don't have customers, I don't have a business.
Right.
And then I have a lot of washing machines and a lot of dryers that I don't have any use for. There's only 5 of us at home. I don't need 24 dryers. Look, laundromats are great. We own them. There's a certain amount of work you got to put in, and there's a certain amount of knowledge you have to run them. You're not going to buy a laundromat and work 45 minutes a week and just take buckets and buckets and buckets of quarters to the bank. Because if that were the case, nobody'd ever sell one. So just spend a little time learning the business. There's only so many books, articles, videos you can watch, and then you go live. And it's kind of like baseball. You know, you can take all the batting practice you want, and then the pitcher throws a 95-mile-an-hour slider, and you're like, I didn't see that in batting practice.
Right. So, Mark, why laundromats?
I think it's just a great industry. You know, I had to find something that my wife also agreed with. Mm-hmm. And, you know, unfortunately, she'll tell you she does most of the laundry in the house. So, you know, a laundromat is something that people need. And then also with pickup and delivery and wash and fold, your customer base has really grown. I like to joke to anybody who's wearing clothes is a potential customer.
I agree.
So you can really grow your business. So I was lucky enough to find one about 12 minutes from my house. So I'm familiar with the neighborhood. I'm active in the neighborhood, and it just worked out, and it's been very good so far.
Okay. So you're local, you're in the community, the store is in your community. How'd you come across a store 12 minutes away from your house to make it so, I don't want to say easy, because we know this business is not easy, but convenient for you for your first store?
Well, I initially started going through websites that sell laundromats, and I couldn't really find anything with brokers not getting back to me or unrealistic listings, that type of thing. So I was kind of thinking, yeah, this isn't going to happen. It's just not meant to be. It's not in the cards. And I'm going to give my wife credit. I can't remember exactly who gave me the idea, but she said, why don't you just write letters to them? Yeah, it can't hurt. Right. So I wrote, I Googled stores within, I don't know, a 20-minute radius around my house, and I just sent them a letter. I'm looking to buy a laundromat in Middlesex or Monmouth County. If you know anybody or you're interested, here's my number. Give me a call. That was it. Didn't expect to get anything. I actually got 3 calls. Well, I got 4, but one was to yell at me. I got 3 calls. One wanted too much, one couldn't pull the trigger, and one is the location that we're in.
That's awesome. So we're here, and I know you mentioned to me earlier, the store is 1,500 square feet. And when it comes to machines, how many washers, how many dryers do you have in the store?
We have 24 of each.
Okay, so 24 dryers, 24 washers. And the store is 1,500 square feet. And we kind of touched on it earlier. There's a lot of conversation about the big stores now in the industry. I'm in New York City, and a lot of stores, there are some big stores, but a lot of stores are like 1,500, 2,000, even 1,100 square feet. Like my store, the space we operate is 700 square feet that we operate out of. How do you feel the size of your store? Is it more of an advantage to you, or you find it as a disadvantage?
I would like to have a little more storage space, but I don't feel, because the majority, like 60% of our business is wash and fold.
Wow.
So, I mean, this area that I'm in now, it does have apartments behind here, but it's built up. You're not going to be adding more apartment complexes. People know that you're here. So I don't have a huge well of other people that are just that need to do the self-serve.
Right.
So a lot of my potential is in commercial and in residential pickup and delivery, wash and fold.
Okay, great. And when you look at I'm assuming you do pickup and delivery because you mentioned that.
Yes.
And then so you're doing pickup and delivery, drop off, and then obviously self-service. So you're looking at 3 revenue lines. And you mentioned there's a lot of potential you feel in the pickup and delivery on the commercial side. How do you feel about the residential side when it comes to that potential also?
I think the hardest thing for the industry is just to let people know that they can do that. The pandemic taught a lot of people you can do everything on your phone. Okay, you can sit on your couch, you can order Burger King, your Walgreens prescription comes to you, you go on Amazon and Sunday your package comes, and what they don't realize is that you can go on your phone to somebody's website, just sign up, put your credit card in, and then boom, your laundry gets done for you. I have customers that we've never even met. They leave their clothes. We give them bags, but a lot of times they don't even use them. I don't know why.
Put it on the doorstep.
Yeah, they put it, you get a big black garbage bag or 2 on the doorstep. Okay, we take it. The next day it comes back. It's, all washed and folded. They're happy as clams.
Right.
But a lot of people don't realize you can do that. A lot of times when I tell people, they're like, "You do that?"
Right.
It's like, yeah, we do that.
Like
Here,
you invented it.
Go to the website. Yes, you can do that too. So that's the biggest thing, is just having people realize, because I see a lot of people talk about spending money on ads.
Yes.
And my thing is, though, they have to know that it's done in the first place to have those ads be effective.
Right.
So that I think is the biggest challenge.
Right. If the ad is just saying, press here to get, click here to go get pickup and delivery. If they don't have the knowledge of what this pickup and delivery service is, someone will fully do your laundry from you from A to Z. Why would I click on it without being knowledgeable of that service?
Right.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So, looking at it, the pickup and delivery side and the drop-off side, you said a lot of your business is the service side of it, people dropping it off or you doing the pickup and delivery. How have you, well, I should say not how have you, what methods and tactics have you been using to grow that side of the business? Because you mentioned there's a lack of knowledge of it. So how are you getting that word out, the awareness to get them to come here?
I use mostly guerrilla marketing tactics.
I love that.
Because you only have to conquer a small area. I don't have to advertise to all of New Jersey, all of the East Coast. I really just have to get a couple of towns.
Right.
So one of the things that I did was I joined the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
Last year we held a networking function here and with the restaurant diagonally from us. So we all met here. We unveiled the little library that we have. You'll probably have pictures of that.
Yep.
And then we went over there for food. So what I just try to be involved in the community. With the little library that we have. The library director is also a member of the Chamber of Commerce. The library is about a mile from here. You could walk if you really wanted to. And I'm not even quite sure how it came about, but the Chamber of Commerce, they bought the bookcase for us.
That's awesome.
The library donates all the books, mostly kids' books. So when I need more books, I just call up Kimberly and say, hey, I need more books, and she's like, all right, we'll come around Monday and we'll get you more books. So
that's awesome.
And a lot of customers like that too, because they see, we have this sign up there that we're a member of the chamber, but you also have the little library here, and it's just a nice little addition that says, yeah, you care about the community that you're in.
Right.
There were also, they have like Matawan Day, Aberdeen Day. We got a table for that, and one of the things that I did was we had your laundry basket full of just laundry, and then we had a nice bag of folded clothes, and we said we turned this into this.
That's smart.
Right. So any chance I have to, if I'm at ShopRite and I'm in the laundry aisle, I will tell somebody, hey, I own the, we do pick up and deliver. You don't even have to do your own laundry.
Right.
So any chance, I might be a little extreme, but any chance I get to let people know, one of the things that I did too that I don't see a lot of small businesses do, I went to every business in the plaza. I introduced myself. And I'm not expecting to do their laundry because most of them don't have businesses that would have laundry. But, you know, hey, like if you work 400 yards away, hey, why don't you bring your laundry here? We'll wash and fold it.
Exactly.
And then, you know, after work, you pick it up. Boom, your laundry's done in like
Right.
2 minutes.
You bring
for
it to work,
Right.
drop it off here, and when you're done with your shift, take it home with you.
You know, so I've done the flyers and the door hangers and
I've done all those.
anything I can do,
Got it.
you know, to get the word out.
And which one would you say is you've seen the most results from?
You know, honestly, a lot of it is, I
That
think,
deep breath said a
well,
lot.
it's word of mouth, you know, because I do try to find out. Sometimes it's hard to get the attendants to ask.
Yeah.
But like if I come across somebody who's new, the first thing I ask is like, "Oh, how'd you find us?"
Right.
You know, and a lot of times I find, you know, people are looking for a laundromat, and I had, you know, it's funny because my wife and I had a debate about like, you know, how important are reviews. You know, and you know what? As the universe would, you know, help me out on this one. I usually lose to my wife, but this one I won. And I had like 2 people in a row, like, oh yeah, I looked you up. You guys had a bunch of good reviews, so I came. You know, and then, you know, obviously the challenge is to match their expectations, which I
Exactly.
hope we do. So I don't know if there's any one way that's been the best. It's just, and you know, sometimes you have to hit people like 2 or 3 or 4 times.
Right. Because
Like, you know
they're
what?
not ready in that moment.
Yeah, you know, like I've seen you guys. Yeah, you guys are the laundromat by the restaurant, right?
Right.
Yes, that's us.
Yes, please come by. Right. That's awesome. The word of mouth, when you mention reviews, the reviews is just another form of word of mouth that we get that just stands the test of time because it's going to be online. It's wherever it's Google or Yelp or whatever, or it's on your own website. If you capture those reviews and put them there, it gets to repeat. You get to repeat that message for people to see over and over and over. You know, Mark, we're talking about like the Chamber of Commerce and how you went around and introduced yourself to all those businesses. And I heard you say the word community like a few times. You live 12 minutes away, so you live in this community. How important has the community involvement been to the business, and how important is it to you to have that community involvement?
Well, I think it's extremely important, you know, because I've had people tell me, you know, because they do have laundry facilities in the apartment behind us, but so many people come here. Now, it is one of those where they have it in the basement type of thing, and you know, we love those because you don't want to go to those. But I was talking to one gentleman, and he's like, you know what, I want to support a local business. You know, but you got to give them a reason to support you. You can't just say, hey, help out your local business, you know, like you're doing my family a favor. I also have to give you in return a reason to come here. So I think it's very important, you know, and when people see the little library, when people see that, you know, maybe you're in the local paper because you did something with the chamber, they like that. You know, like when we had a ribbon cutting, you know, I try to do things out of the box, make us memorable, and when we tour later, I'll show you, because we have a little community board. But I sent out a ton, and I gave them out too. We had golden tickets, like Willy Wonka.
Like Willy Wonka.
I love the movie. I love this, you know, the Gene Wilder movie. You know,
it's awesome.
So I for our ribbon cutting, I did those, you know, and you know all these things. It's gonna be. I can't remember exactly how I pretty much wrote it as he did in the book. You know, and you know I gave out the golden tickets, and we even had one lady like, "Do I need my golden ticket to come?" No, you're invited. But yes, so we had a nice, you know, showing. But I try to, you know, to do that stuff. You know, because I live here too. You know, people know I live here too. You know, I have 2 kids that also work here part-time. You know, we shop at the supermarket down the road. Yesterday I went to the restaurant in the center
saw
here.
Some customers in there.
Yeah. You a lot of times you'll see customers at the supermarket
all the time. Yeah. And you know, and I can relate to it when being in my dad's business. My dad's business is at one corner. Then block in between, my grandparents lived there, and then I grew up on the block. So within 3 blocks, I'm walking from my house, my grandparents' house, into my dad's business. The whole neighborhood has watched me grow up, going back and forwards from each house to the business, and then being in the business, and people come in all the time. So
well, when you talk about community too, a lot of people, they know each other. You know, they're, hey Frank,
Right.
Oh, and they just start talking.
And that makes a difference.
We had a lady before you guys came in. I was talking to her. She works at one of the stores in the center. A gentleman came in. She called him by name.
Right.
So you get a lot of that. Where the customers themselves know each other.
Right. And that attracts customers to want to come back. It kind of reminds me of the show Cheers with the bar, where they go in and they would call them by name, and they walk in.
Afternoon, everybody.
Oh, no! I'm out of beer, Norm.
Yowza.
And you feel a sense of belonging, a sense of community when you go in there. So you're like, you know what? I'll go there and do my laundry.
Well, that's what I try to get across, to the staff, and that's what I want the customers to feel. A sense of belonging. Where you can have a conversation, where they know your name, where they know what's going on in your life. Because I realize this is only 1,500 square feet. Okay, right. I'm not adding a Starbucks in the back. Okay, I can't have a daycare center. I just don't have the physical space. Okay, if you have it, that's great. I don't. Okay, but what I can give you is a nice, clean, inviting place to come where, okay, if I have to be here for an hour to do my laundry, I like it. There's nice people there. The place is clean. I can grab a Coke. We have a lot of people too, being, a community that'll, okay, I'll be back in a half hour. I'm going to go run, get gas, go to the bank. Okay, we'll see ya. They don't have to worry about their stuff getting taken. Nobody's going to take their Tide Pods.
Right.
And they like that.
And if you need the machine because the store gets busy, you put it in a cart, you just put it to the side.
Yeah, and they're like, or sometimes they'll even be like, hey, you know what, can you just put some quarters in for me? Or, another thing I love too is people will leave, and I've never had this anywhere else I've worked. Oh, I'm going to Dunkin' Donuts. You want a coffee? No, I'm good. I mean, you don't have people buying you food and stuff like that.
And sometimes they come back with it anyway.
Yeah.
And just look, I brought you something.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it says a lot because they're making that connection with you and your team members here that they would, one, spend their own money on you too. And two, they think about you in that moment. That's a huge, huge gesture for them to do that. That's great. So community is really important. And you mentioned you introduced yourselves to all the businesses in the plaza. What kind of response did you get from that?
I got a good response, but then I think that they fall back into the small business mentality. I preach to anybody I ever can. You got to get out of your own four walls.
Yes.
You have to. I was absolutely shocked. There was a UPS store. A mile and a half from here.
Okay,
and I was, again, I was introducing myself, and I was inviting people to come, to join the chamber, but also to come to my networking function.
Right.
And he goes, oh, I said, we're right by, I give him the alternate ending because that's a good landmark for people. He goes, oh, I've never driven that way. Oh, okay. I said, well, basically you just go up to the light and make a left. And it blew my mind that you're a UPS store. You primarily serve businesses other than somebody dropping off their UPS package, right?
Right.
Well, if you go to the light and you turn between your light and ShopRite, must be 200 businesses, and you've never even driven past it, let alone do what I'm doing.
And try and make some connection with them.
Yes. So you have to, if you want to grow your business, you can spend a lot of money doing it online and hope that people find you. Or you can go out there and find them.
Right. And what's the exact township we're in? I don't want to use the wrong name.
This is technically Aberdeen.
Aberdeen.
Although people use it with Matawan interchangeably.
Got it. What would you say your competition when it comes to laundry is like in this township or the neighbor ones? Like 1 being hardly any and 5 it's super saturated.
I don't think I have a tremendous amount.
Okay.
Of competition. There is one other in town. They have a niche that I can't do. I don't think they can do what we do.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've spoken to the owner once or twice. Cordial, but
nothing like.
Yes.
Okay. So I asked that because I know when we were talking earlier, we were talking about the pricing that we see in New York and you see in New Jersey when it comes to drop off or wash and fold, fluff and fold, whatever term somebody is using these days, and pick up and delivery. Do you feel for you and your business, the way you're running it, the way you're building it, is it more important for you to be different or to have a better price than
I don't really think pricing is that important because
Really?
if they like you, and obviously you go up too much, then they're gonna. But I think if you have fair pricing within the market, even if you're on the high end of what the market allows, I mean, if we have people like I'm sure you do too. Like I recognize their laundry or their bags.
100%.
And it's like, oh, okay. Jordan was here.
Yeah.
Okay. We've had people too, and this is a part of being with the community. There's a young guy. He comes in every weekend, and like once or twice he's been like, look, I'm really tight, but do you think you could help me out? You know what? Fine. You know what? Just pay both next time.
Yep. We've got.
And then like, how would they go somewhere else? You raise it. Let's say you raise 15 cents a pound. Are they really going to go anywhere else? They're not. They're not going to go anywhere else.
Right. Because first of all, the chance of someone giving that level of treatment just to say, hey, I don't have it this time, like that's a real personal connection for someone to open up and say, hey, Mark, I can't afford to pay today. Can I pay on the next one? Like that goes back to the community, and it reminds me of like my grandfather and like my dad first started their business. I remember people would have like credit, like they would have this book in the store and they would give local people credit in my dad's supermarket, and I would just be blown away. Like, so Dad, like, do you have any like anything to secure this debt? He's like, no, they come in here every week, this time, this day, and they will pay it back. And then I would look in the book and you'd see like they come and pay like every month or whatever their routine was, and it built a lot of loyalty for it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have many people that do that because obviously, I mean, I have bills to pay too.
Right.
I have kids, but I can honestly say I have not been burned yet.
Right. That's good.
Anybody who I've like helped out, they have paid.
They have paid.
So
that's great. Awesome. So I noticed in the store, we talked about the size of it and the machine, and I noticed you take quarters. Do you take any other form of payment when it comes to self-service just besides quarters?
Not now.
Okay.
I mean, obviously we do credit card for the pickup and delivery, wash and fold, but there really hasn't been really a clamoring for it. Every now and then somebody will say something, and I've thought about maybe adding like pay range on the two big ones.
Right.
I understand that's a lot of quarters to pump in, but nobody has really made an issue of it. So I was like, all right, well, maybe if nobody's really complaining, then
right. Do you have any goals to incorporate any other type of payment methods later on in the future?
I mean, we might.
Right.
I mean, maybe next time we do raise prices. I don't plan on doing it this year, but probably in January.
Right.
Maybe that's when because you are beholden to quarter increments.
Right.
So
okay. What's your thoughts on the electronic payment and quarter payment, just overall? You mentioned
I think it's great.
piece.
I think if you can have more than one way to do it, I think it's fantastic. My daughter is she's 24. She's of the generation that what is cash?
Right.
Everything is just tap your card. Tap your card. You take Apple Pay. Tap.
Right.
So I think that the more that you have, it can only benefit.
Right. You give the more options you. To a certain extent that you can give your clients, the more appealing you come.
But based on the clientele that I see here, at least for the self-serve, there's not a big demand like, oh, I wish you had Apple Pay. Now, obviously, with the pickup and delivery or the wash and fold, you have a $112 order. A lot of people pay by credit card, which I totally get.
Yeah. What do you think is one of the things that really makes your laundromat stand out? That people want to come here versus going to the other competitors that you mentioned? I
think it's just the staff.
Wow.
We, I've even gotten compliments about the daughter I was joking with you about, who, doesn't talk to us at home. The staff is friendly. They're good people. What I wrote about in my book and what I recommend to everybody, hire for friendliness. You can teach everything else. Okay, I can teach you how to run a register. Okay, people already know how to fold. Right. You just have to teach them how to fold uniformly so everybody looks the same.
Right.
So just be friendly. I can't teach you to be friendly.
Yeah, that be nice, be friendly.
That's
like
it.
we talk about
That's
that
it.
a lot of times in the
And
office.
friendly lets you get away with so much also. Like if you're having, and I've worked for other people too, and you and I, we've all been in situations where the cashier is struggling, or, you go to the drive up and it's like, oh, this is broken and that's broken, and you can really see, look, the person is very earnest about it.
Right.
They're nice. It's like, okay, things happen,
Yeah.
So my number one criteria is to be friendly. Okay, because if you make a mistake with the register, I can fix it.
Right.
Okay, I'll credit the customer. I'll fix it.
We can fix it. Right.
Yeah. The small mistakes I can easily fix. We had a lady when I bought it that, even I felt a little uncomfortable with. But I'm brand new, so I have to keep her for a little while. We wound up firing her. And then I heard all these stories. And I'm like, oh my God, I wish we had fired her even sooner.
Right.
We fired her within 3 months.
Right.
But, because I had, I remember one lady, she's like, yeah, I like your place, but I didn't really want to come here when she was here because I didn't even feel comfortable asking her to break a bill. And that's no.
You don't want that.
Our job is, you need change, I'll get you change.
Right.
You know what? You're not happy with something. My staff has carte blanche. Just take care of things.
Right.
Just you know what? You got to give somebody a free wash. Give them a free wash. Somebody says the machine ate their quarters. I know it didn't eat their quarters.
Just give
them 50 cents. Give them 2 quarters. It makes them happy.
Right.
Just take care of them.
Yeah. When I hear that, it makes me smile. But it's not the norm. I'm not even going to say in our industry, just in small businesses. You're talking about people get trapped in these 4 walls. Where does that come from, and why do you take that approach to tell your staff, do what it takes to satisfy the client and keep them happy?
Because if I don't have customers, I don't have a business.
Right.
And then I have a lot of washing machines and a lot of dryers that I don't have any use for. There's only 5 of us at home. I don't need 24 dryers.
You're not going to use them all.
Look, I think Sam Walton said it, with the founder of Walmart.
Yeah.
Without the customer, you don't have anything.
They're your boss.
You don't have anything. If these nice people didn't come and trust me with their clothes and then come here on the Saturday or in the rain and stuff like that, I don't have a business.
Right.
They should be my only priority.
That's it. They're our boss. They're not really the customer. And I can't remember which business person said that. It might have been Sam. It might have been Sam also. That the customer is your boss, and we got to satisfy them every single day, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You got to satisfy them.
Well, I kind of like it too. That to me, you always have to be on your game because we don't have a contract. Even commercial customers. I mean, you're small. You're too
here
small
today,
to have
going
one.
tomorrow,
If they don't like you, they go somewhere else, or they find another solution.
And there's
so
plenty
you
of
always have to be bringing your A game.
Yeah, great. So we connected through LinkedIn, and you post quite a bit of content on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and you've been sharing your journey, which I think is awesome, and I so appreciate it, and I think your videos are great. And one video you mentioned about the pros and cons of owning a laundromat, which I thought gave people I believe gave people a really good insight into the business. Because there's a lot of stuff going on the internet now that makes this business so passive, and it's the best boring business to own. What have been some of the challenges that you've had in this business that you didn't think when you were first deciding to get a laundromat?
Well, I did a lot of research, and I don't believe the hype, because I know a lot of it's clickbait, you know. But one of the challenges I would say I had is just like equipment maintenance or fixing things, And I would always recommend, I've always heard make friends with the distributor, which is good. They are good people to have, but they're also trying to sell you equipment. I get that,
It's their job.
The repair guys are very open to, at least the ones that I've met, obviously they want the business too, but if you're a good person and you have a good repair person, they'll tell you, look, next time just do this. Or I had a situation where they couldn't get anybody out here. They talked me through it over the phone and sent me a YouTube video.
Right, that's awesome.
So my wife and I, we take the front of the machines off, we put we're getting all this stuff out. But yes, the repairs. Because everything about the machines is expensive. Buying them new, or getting them fixed. And even new ones, if anybody's ever had, you buy a new appliance at home and then 6 months later, it's still under warranty. Even the new ones break.
Yep.
I had a repair guy said the only way not to break them is to not use it. And that's not really a good business.
I need to use this thing. Yeah.
So that has been one of the things that I have found challenging because I'm not a super handy guy.
Okay. I was going to ask you, are you handy?
Mrs. Laundromat is. I'm not, though.
Right.
So, but then obviously there are things beyond her ability too.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you're not going to be sitting here doing a barren job together on a machine.
Right.
That would make a great YouTube video if you did that one. So, speaking of YouTube, what prompted you to say, I've gotten into the laundromat business. It's been, like a year and a half now?
Yeah,
About a year and a half. What prompted you to say, you know what, I want to start sharing your experiences with the community in general?
Well, I always wanted to be a teacher.
Awesome.
And it just didn't work out. Like I got, I know they call it the Great Recession, 2008. I don't think it was that great. I got fired during it. And I tried to go like alternate route. New Jersey has something like that. If you have a college degree, you don't have to have it in teaching. It can be in something else.
Yep.
And nobody was hiring. Obviously, it didn't work out. And when I have worked for other people, when I haven't had my own business, I've always been kind of like a mentor to younger people, whether it be just in their personal lives as a father figure or just as, nobody else will tell you this. This is why we do this.
Right.
It's not just like, all right, go do this. But I try to explain to him, this is why the business does this. This is what we're hoping to get out of it. So next time they can do some of the thinking on their own.
Right.
So I just thought YouTube was a great way to just share information. And to me, I'm kind of like, I don't know, I guess a little more laid back in a sense. Maybe my family wouldn't say that.
On your videos, like, you're laid back.
Okay.
I'm like, how is he so cool and calm?
Okay,
Like,
good. Then that's what I want to come. But I just want to give people the real deal. Like I don't want you to watch the video that got 1.2 million like views and was total BS.
Yeah.
Look, laundromats are great. We own them. Okay, that's why we're here. They are a great business, but they are nonetheless a business, and every business has there's a certain amount of work you got to put in, and there's a certain amount of knowledge you have to run them.
Absolutely.
So like the pro side, the pro video, that's easy because everybody knows
what the pros are.
But I just want to give you the realistic cons, and if you see some of these videos, you're not going to buy a laundromat and work 45 minutes a week and just take buckets and buckets and buckets of quarters to the bank. Because if that were the case, nobody'd ever sell one.
Right.
I see these listings sometimes, sure you do too,
Yep.
Where it's, $300,000 net and absentee owner.
Yeah, I'm looking at.
So let's rewind here. You make $300,000 a year, and you don't even show up.
And you're selling it?
Why? I doesn't make that doesn't add up.
Trust me, I'm not selling it. 300 net.
Right.
And
especially if you don't work.
And I'm absentee. Why would I sell it?
So
I'll be looking for more.
Right. So those are obviously not realistic. But you know what? The brokers, they don't ask the clients. They don't go. They don't go through the client's books. They're like, all right, how much do you make? How much do you how much do you want for it?
Yeah.
Because they also don't know. The brokers don't know laundromats.
They're like a lot of them. They're doing real estate. They're not business brokers.
Yeah. So they think, hey, you know what? I'll get a 10% commission on this $500,000 business.
Somebody will buy this thing, right? The laundromats
but then those
high.
are the ones that sit there.
That's it, because the numbers are off.
Yeah, they don't make any sense in, like I talk about in the book. I go through one. And I say, look, I just picked a random one from New Jersey.
Right.
Let's just go through it. And I break down, okay, well, knowing how much, utilities should be and how much rent should be. Okay, so basically this guy is working for nothing. And I know he doesn't have a website, a POS system, because there's no money left.
Right.
I've already spent it all based on what you told me is in this listing.
So how is he netting that?
Yeah, what am I buying?
Right.
I'm buying a job.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very interesting, and I commend you, for telling people how it is, because people need to understand, any business, not even just laundromats, what you're going to get into versus all the icing and all the nice stuff on the cake. What's in the middle? Like, what are we really biting into when we get into this?
Well, I think there's an audience for that. I mean, I know there's an audience for, you pull up in the Lamborghini and you have the beautiful model and how much money I made and all that. Look, I know that. But, my audience is like, look, I just want to have like real knowledge.
Yeah.
Because like when I buy a book, when I watch a video, I just you're the expert. That's why I'm sure you've been through trainings also, like at companies and stuff like that. And it's like, no, don't ask me questions. You're the expert. I want to learn from you. Right. I want your knowledge.
I'm asking you the questions to impart that knowledge on me. Yeah. So laundromats are not your first business. This is not your first rodeo as an entrepreneur.
Right.
From what you mentioned earlier and just from what you have posted online in different dialogue, what other businesses have you been in?
Well, the main one that got me going was mystery shopping.
Yeah. I used to be a cashier at a supermarket. Yeah. I used to get dinged by the mystery shoppers.
Right. So we, typical story, I worked for the A&P, which is out of business now many years. But I grew up working at the supermarket, met my wife there. And I said, you know what? We don't do mystery shopping, but we could use it. And I bet you there's a lot of companies that don't use it. Mm-hmm. So, just to condense the story real quick, started in a spare bedroom. Business got a little bigger, didn't have kids yet. I asked, hey, can we have the master bedroom? My wife said yes. Business got bigger. We had an outside office. Worked with like ShopRite, Pizza Hut, things like that. We got noticed. Made the New York Times twice.
That's awesome.
Believe it or not, this face was in Vogue. So we got there. And, I sold it around age 29.
That's phenomenal.
And then I authored a book, Business Lessons for Entrepreneurs, which got published like a year later.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what age were you when you started the mystery shopping business?
I was like 24.
So from 24 to 29, you escalated from in a spare bedroom to an office and then ended up selling it and then publishing a book.
Yes.
That's awesome. I have like so many questions around that, but I think back when I mentioned I was a cashier at a supermarket, and the one thing I would always get dinged for is they would put stuff underneath, the
bottom
rack
of the
on
basket.
I would miss it all the time, and they would fill the cart up, so I'm rushing to try and give them good service, and I would miss it. My manager would call me and be like, yeah, you had a mystery shopper last week, and I'd be like, damn.
Or they put something in something else and you didn't look.
I didn't look, and I was like, he's like, you did good on everything else except you missed this one item. So how much of that from the mystery shopper business have you has transcended into your laundromat business to help you?
Well, one of the big things that I learned, not because it was a mystery shopping business, just because I worked like insane hours, was that one of the best books I've ever read is The E-Myth.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, so a lot of smart business people know that book. And the thing that I learned was work on the business, not in the business. So when I did the mystery shopping, I worked too much in the business. I did mystery shop. I was a salesperson, so I put on back then, a suit and tie, and I went out and, I sold to presidents, entrepreneurs, publicly traded companies, that type of thing. That was what I should be doing. I shouldn't be doing mystery shops themselves. Right. I shouldn't be proofreading them. I shouldn't be doing all the other little stuff.
Right.
So I realized, that's one of the big things. With the laundromat, I didn't buy a laundromat so that I could fold your clothes. Do I do it sometimes? Yeah, when we get backed up, of course.
Yep.
Do I clean the machines? Yeah, of course. But that's not why
that shouldn't be the majority of time.
My main business work should be growing the customer base. That's going to the Chamber of Function meeting. That's meeting with the library. That's doing the township days.
Right.
That type of thing. So that's one of the things that I learned. But also too. And this is what I'm going to be talking about at the CLA event, is, customer service from the customer perspective. Totally. So it's all like mystery shopping related, because we look at it from our side of the counter.
Right.
But the mystery shopping looks at it 100% from the customer perspective.
They don't care about
and
anything else.
Right. They don't care that Tom called out sick a half hour before the shift.
Right.
That's too bad.
You said my order is going to be ready Thursday
Right.
at 5.
Right.
It's 5.
They
Where's
don't
my order?
care that, somebody's pillow exploded and I can't use this big machine.
Yep.
So everything, and that's what the talk is going to be about, everything is from the customer perspective. So that's what I tried to do,
That's awesome.
So when customers are like, because I could see, like, if I did add pay range, some customer, I mean, you don't have to use it, obviously. You
Right,
could
they
use,
can still use coins.
But I could see some of the older customers. Oh, I don't know how to. Don't worry, just put the quarters in. Because we have, like through the website, we have the pickup and delivery. But we have some customers that they either don't have a computer or they have no computer knowledge.
Right, and they're not doing it on their phone.
Right, and and I allow this. I just call it like the little old lady rule. Don't worry about it. Just put it in as wash and fold, because everybody's within a mile or two, and they just like, can you pick up my clothes tomorrow?
Yeah, they'll call the store.
No problem.
We've got like 1 or 2 of those too.
We'll add you. It's always going to be a $15 order. You're right by the shop. Yeah, don't worry about it. We got you.
Right, we totally get it. Yeah, those are the things that make a huge difference, and it ties back to what you said before, community and that word of mouth, because they're going to share that experience with other people. So you touched on, you brought up 2 things, and I have to go back to both of them.
Okay.
One, you brought up the CLA event. So you're speaking at Excellence that's coming up, and it's next month in May.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I better start working on it. It's my first event, and then I'm like, oh, no, I know what I'm going to say. I had to do an outline to get it approved.
Right. Because I was going to say, this year they took a different approach
Right.
where people were able to submit, which I thought was great. I'm sure they got tons of ideas and great presentations that people were submitting versus them having to come up with the ideas themselves. What led you to say you wanted to submit this outline to do this presentation? Being that you said it's your first one too, so
Well, I know,
because
because sometimes I get, how entrepreneurs are. You just get like bigger ideas, and
Chasing a shiny object.
and then it's like when they said yes, and it's like, oh shoot, now I actually have to
actually
come up
do
with an
it.
hour of material. But no, I have it. I definitely have it. I just want to be involved,
That's
and originally, I'm going to do one on, it's going to be on customer service. And originally that was not going to be the topic. And I was thinking about doing marketing. They had a couple of topics they asked you to submit for. And then my wife is like, well, customer. I said, yeah, but everybody knows, like all these people, they're the best of the best usually attending. So am I just going to bore them with like customer service? And then I thought, damn, how much bad service is out there? And one of the things I always found with mystery shopping is people, if you ask them, is there bad customer service? Yes. Mm-hmm. Is it at your residence or your store? No. Oh, it ain't me. It ain't me.
We're good.
Okay, yeah, all right. So then I was thinking, you know what? Yeah, maybe based on the mystery shopping and the disconnect that I saw, and I can also teach everybody how to do their own. I mean, they can hire an outside company. I mean, I don't know any. I haven't been in the industry like in 20 plus years.
Right.
But they could hire somebody. If you have 11 stores, hire somebody. But there are ways to self mystery shop also. And I can teach them that. Right. So I did think that, even if you are an experienced operator, I felt like, maybe there's some things that, because one of the things that, the way I evaluate knowledge is, let's say a book, like the E-Myth, okay? Right. I don't have to learn something new on all 200 pages. If I take that one sentence...
one thing.
I've been using that one sentence for the last 20 years. Work on the business, not in it. I don't even remember. I know some of the, the one lady's a baker and
with
stuff
the
like
pies.
that.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the whole book. But you know what? That $20 was worth that one sentence. If I didn't learn anything else,
it stuck with you.
So I always feel like, what, if I talk and some of it you already know, you come out of that one thing, be like, yeah, we should try that.
Right.
You know what? Then it's worth it.
That's totally worth it. What is you talk about? You can do your own mystery shopping. You talk about people say like customer service is bad, but it's not bad at my shop. What is something someone can do to identify that they've got bad customer service going on at their store, and they're not aware of it?
I mean, if the easiest
I'm
way
going to
to
put
do
you
it-
on the spot.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Well, first of all, it's hard to self-evaluate.
Right.
Okay, because we're either too hard or too easy. Plus, our own staff acts differently around us. Okay, they're not going to
100%.
treat you like they treat a customer.
Yeah,
okay,
when I walk in the door, it's like,
right.
Showtime.
Either everybody stands at attention,
Yeah.
or they're like, "Oh, it's Mark," but they wouldn't treat a customer like that. So it's very hard. So that's the whole idea with the mystery shopping, is to see what a real customer sees. So the easiest thing, if somebody wanted to do it, is just get a friend and say, look, here's some quarters. Would you do me a favor? I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. Okay, just stop at my store one day.
Just like, go hang out.
Nobody's gonna know you're coming. Okay. Use the store and just be honest with me. Tell me what you think.
Right.
We had a girl, and I kind of I used her as a mystery shopper. She's one of my son's friends, and she had to interview like a local business person. And, part of the assignment was going to the store and observing, you
Right.
know. So I didn't tell, like, my daughter was going to be there when she came in to observe. I didn't tell my daughter.
Right.
I said, what, let's just see. I'm kind of curious because I know how she is around me.
How is she with the
How is she
customer?
with other people?
Right.
So you can do a lot of that. Now, like, you can also mystery shop yourself. You can pay an outside service, and just say, hey, look, let's do 5 or 6 shops. Come once a month for, let's say once a month for 6 months.
Right.
I don't know who you are. Nobody knows you're coming. Just do your thing. Ask some questions.
Right.
Because that's one of the things that I find, is like I think I've relayed all the information to everybody, and
we
then
haven't.
they're telling me, oh, I spoke to a customer. I was like, oh, well, all right, for next time, just tell them this,
Right.
okay? And
These are the
right.
things.
But that's a great thing. You have the mystery shopper come in and, just pretend. I mean, look, well, a lot of people don't pretend. They don't know how to use a
They
washer
don't.
and a dryer.
Right.
I've had people walk over to the dryers and say,
Thinking it's
where
the
do I
washer.
put the detergent in?
Like,
And it's like, okay, well, let's back this up a little bit.
Please don't put it in this
Yeah,
one.
that's a dryer. So, but yeah, have the mystery shopper come in, whether it's a outside company or a friend,
family.
and just ask some questions. Say, oh, you do pickup and delivery, and then just ask some random questions about it.
Right.
Do they know the actual answers? Maybe they do, and that's fantastic.
Right.
And then you sleep a little better at night. And if they don't, one of the things you can do is just, pull people aside and just review. The worst thing to do, because I worked with bigger companies like ShopRite,
Okay.
Manhattan Bagel, Pizza Hut, and then sometimes, they would get a report back that they didn't like, and then they would beat everybody up. And that's the worst thing.
Right.
I used to always tell people, look, you can tell them that they're getting mystery shopped. And honestly, there's nothing on the mystery shop that they shouldn't know already. Everybody should get 100. It's like
Right.
a test.
They have to know all those details.
Right. It's like in school where the teacher's like, look, we're going to have a test on this.
Yeah.
We've reviewed the test.
Like,
You should get
go
100.
study this.
I'm
Right.
not going to ask you a single question we didn't review. So
Right.
on the mystery shop, you should always get 100, but obviously you don't always do that.
Yeah.
So, but
unfortunately.
if you beat people up about it, you're going to lose them. If you just say, hey, if you just say, John, next time this is what you should say and this is why we should say it, because then the customer might not realize X, Y, and Z. Okay, if you say it like that, okay. Now, if it's the third or fourth time, then now you might have a disciplinary problem, but that first time, just educational. You're just teaching your employees.
It's what they call a teachable moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good. That's it. Awesome. So you wrote 4 books before, and now you've recently written a book that you've just released just about the laundry industry. What someone's getting into it who's new, what are some things that you would want them to be aware of before they get into this business, good or bad?
Well, I think one of the most important things, and it's different than other industries, is how important the lease is. Because for, you own a bridal boutique, let's say. Okay, your lease expires, well, you just move everything to another building and you just relocate, and easy peasy, right? With a laundromat, you're kind of bolted. You're bolted to the ground.
Hard mount machine.
Right. You need your machines are literally bolted to the ground. You need special infrastructure. You can't just put like an 80-pound washing machine anywhere.
Right.
So the lease is so extremely important. I see a lot of businesses or a lot of laundromats for sale, like on the buy, biz, sell.
Yep.
And it's like, wow, that seems really cheap for what you're saying. And then I see your lease is up in 8 months.
Right.
You don't have a business.
Right. There's nothing to negotiate there.
You don't have anything to sell. So the lease is extremely important. And I think that also to, get the passive out of your mind. And like I tell people, when I bought this, I had a full-time job. So you can definitely own a laundromat and have a full-time job.
100%.
I'm not saying you can't.
Right.
But just don't live in this fantasy where, you're just going to, it's a second stream of income, like a dividend.
Right.
Like to me, dividends are true passive income.
Right.
You did absolutely
I
nothing.
put it in there one time and that's
Right.
it.
So just don't get into this fallacy that, if you have a 40-hour-a-week job, you're just going to make money doing nothing by owning a laundromat. You're going to be spending, some time in there, know. Somebody's got to fill the change. Somebody's got to, clean the, somebody calls out sick a half hour before. Like or let's say they're legitimately sick. I'm throwing up. I can't go in.
Somebody's got to cover that shift.
Okay. Well, do you call out of your job? You have to figure these things out.
Right.
And also, the other piece of advice I'd give is if you're a first-time owner, just learn your building first. Just get somebody called it sea legs the other day.
Yeah.
Look, I know you have all these grand ideas. I'm going to do this, and we're going to expand here, and we're going to do, we'll buy a fleet of trucks. And
I've been there, done that.
That's great. Okay. But the reality is, I remember the first time, second time I opened by myself, and it was in the winter. They shut off the water. Okay. So this lady comes out to me and she goes, "There's no water coming out." And then somebody else yeah, neither am I. And I'm kind of freaking out a little bit.
Why is there no water?
Yeah. And then I realized, I didn't turn the water on. And so it's just stuff like that. And I'm sure you've seen it where hey, you now own it. Here's 10 pounds of keys. Go figure out what they open. And half of them don't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
So you're just finding out the keys. What switch works this. Where does Zach go? How to, so before you jump into all your brilliant ideas, which I'm sure are good, just get the basics.
Let's start with the foundation.
How do you ring up a customer? What is that customer like? What are some of the different things that customers ask for?
Right.
So just spend a little time learning the business, and then you can go. Because we were talking about before, there's only so many books, articles, videos you can watch, and then you go live.
That's it.
And it's kind of like baseball. You can take all the batting practice you want, and then
the
the pitcher throws a 95-mile-an-hour slider, and you're like, I didn't see that in batting practice.
Right. How do you deal with that? Right. He just doesn't know. It's very interesting. You brought up earlier when you mentioned when you acquired this store, and you were presented with an opportunity. Do you retool the whole store or keep the existing machine? And you went into sharing with me that you made the decision to keep the existing machine. And to rehash that, to Sharon again, why did you make the decision to keep what's here versus just retooling the whole store, which you hear a lot of people do as soon as they get a store?
Well, this being my first one, that was my idea. I know you want all this beautiful equipment, and I don't disagree that it is beautiful. I get that.
It's nice and shiny.
But let me just figure this out first.
Right.
Okay, I've literally, all the little mistakes that you make, it's comical. It's funny.
Right.
I remember, I think, we owned it 2 weeks, and we closed early on Christmas Eve, right? And again, we just had it for 2 weeks, so the guy didn't know we closed early. He comes for his laundry. I had trouble getting the front door open. He goes, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Obviously I'm not kidding." I literally walked around back, walked around the side, and I got in from that way,
Right.
So before I retool the whole building and give you a nice commission and spend, well into the six figures, let me figure out what I got here.
Right.
And then one of the things that I learned was that, based on my customer mix, where it's only 39% self-serve, 1%, the snack, you sell some detergents, and the rest is wash and fold. I didn't really need there wasn't that big demand
To put
for
in
it. I
these new
actually
machines.
took out some open tops where we're
Right.
sitting right now. I made some more space, so you had some more room to move. We added the library,
Right.
a little more seating. We got the football package during the season, so you can have the game on.
I know where
and-
I'm coming.
Right. So that's why I'm glad I didn't just like, let's just get all because at a certain point you also have to pay off all that.
I was
debt.
going to say it's going to affect your bottom line tremendously, and
Yeah.
I mean you're getting the business from someone, so you have an idea of what the business is doing, but you never really know until you actually start running that register yourself and know
like we
what
said,
the numbers are.
it's a lot of cash, and you do as much due diligence as you can, and you hope. I was fortunate that the people I bought it from, they only owned it like 6 months. But and this is the reason.
That's
though.
interesting.
Well, this is why.
And the store's been here like 20 plus
Well,
years.
they were corporate guys
Okay.
that kind of were told to stay home during COVID and stuff like that, But the one guy got like a new job and he needed to be physically there. The other guy travels a lot for his job. So I don't quite think it was making as much money because they were never here.
Right.
You know?
Because it's a passive business, Mark.
Right, that's true. So I don't think they were quite making as much money as they thought they would.
Right.
So it's different for me, who's somebody who lives in the community, is going to be involved. The one guy lived at least a half hour away.
Right.
And so if something went wrong, he's like, I can be here before the hour, that type of thing. But they were honest.
Right.
So they didn't even have like a full year, so I couldn't look at tax returns and stuff like that. Now, luckily, they did have a POS system.
That's great.
So I could see what they were doing, in pickup and delivery, wash and fold.
That sounds
and then
right.
I basically asked myself, okay, look, if I subtracted out what they say they do from what I can see in the computer, if this were unattended, would it do that much? I was like, that's not a
It's
crazy
not a huge
number.
gap between the two, right?
So it turned out that they were honest.
That's great.
And because honestly, I was a little scared. I'll be honest. I was
Yeah.
a little, because you never know.
I was going to ask you,
I was a little
the nervous
scared.
meter.
But last year, was our first full year, and I beat expectations as far
Awesome.
as top line.
Congrats.
Obviously there's a bit of a learning curve, and so profits weren't quite where I'd like them to be. But you learn more each year and that type of thing. And so far this year, I set like a double-digit growth, and we're meeting that.
That's good.
So I'm happy with that. I wanted to keep it realistic because it's not like this store's been here a year and you can just keep doubling.
Right.
This store's been here 20 years. People know it. So you got to be realistic.
There's I don't want to say there's a cap, but you want to have a number within certain parameters based on the knowledge that you have of the store and what the store can actually do. Like there is, as much as we know that there's plenty of opportunity. We talked about it earlier. A lot of people don't even know about having your laundry done for you. There's a huge opportunity to capture more, but physically the store can only do so much at one given time.
Right.
Yeah. So that totally makes sense. So the book you wrote for laundry, who first of all, what's the title of the book?
The Laundromat Bible.
Okay. And it's available
Amazon.
Amazon.
Yes.
And who is it for? It's the Laundromat Bible, so I'm sure the title alone is saying like you're going to be talking A to Z about everything in this business.
Well, I try to hit on everything that in the beginning, like a newbie would need to know. Okay, first of all, why do you even want to own a laundromat? Because a lot of people, like, you meet them and they're like, oh yeah, I heard it's a really good business. Okay, well, besides that, like, why? Why do you, besides making a lot of money, why do you want to own a laundromat? Because you're going to have to put in time, effort, money. So why do you want to do it? What do you look for in a lease? A lot of people don't realize, you're looking for a 20-year lease.
Right.
That wedding boutique, yeah, sure, they'd like a 20-year lease too. But if you had a 5-year lease, you can always move it.
Yeah.
It's, here you
And
can't.
the lease that you get here, like you're in a shopping center, is going to be a different lease than you get presented if you were like just renting in a mixed-use building where it's owned by, one person, or maybe, there's a gentleman and his kids, versus the lease you get here. Like I got presented with a lease one time. It's like 45 pages long to put a store in. So I'm sure your
Right.
face said it all. It's something similar.
Well, that's why you have a lawyer too.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend, don't do it without a lawyer. You're silly. You're saving nickels to lose
You're probably
a lot of money.
You're going to lose a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I try to educate you on how to value a laundromat because, when you look at the listings to me, they don't make any sense.
They don't.
Okay. So when X amount should be rent, X amount should be payroll, X, then you can kind of back into okay, well, if you're really doing $500,000 in revenue, what can I actually expect? Because I say in the book, don't take anything it's there. We do 10,000 a month.
Just
but,
take my word on it.
But
Okay.
only 8,000 goes in the bank. Wink, wink.
Right.
Well, you know what? I've heard of situations where wink, wink. They only do $8,000 because that's there wasn't any
was
extra.
no cash. Right.
And then that person is struggling to make up a decent gap.
Right.
So, don't buy, you only can go by what you see in the bank statements, what you can see on the tax records, what you can verify, And then for people that already own a laundromat, I talk about customer service. I talk a lot about marketing because I think, in 2024, people love Google and they love I get that. But you're also... Your reach doesn't have to be so big that you don't have to forget the old ways. Sometimes that little sales letter. I was
mentioned that letter you sent out.
I was telling you a little story before. We're going to be working with a brand new golf course in New Jersey.
That's phenomenal.
And I just reached out to the guy, and he's like 10 minutes away from us. We had a 5-minute conversation. Now we're going to be doing all his laundry
For a golf course.
Yeah. But, if I waited for him to find it, well, maybe he would have found somebody else.
Right.
Or maybe he would have told the owner, look, I know you hate to do it, but we got to put our own washer dryer in here. Now, you know what? It's off his table. He never has to think about it. And I'm excited to work with that one. But, it's going out there and, I will stop at a physical therapist and say, who does your laundry?
Right.
And if they're like, well, we have one in the back. Okay, no problem. If it ever breaks or you ever need it,
I'm here.
You're right. And then for you sitting there, receptionist, do you like doing laundry?
Do you do your own?
Because you don't live that far. You don't work that far away from us.
Right. You could bring it to work and drop it off.
Right. So I do talk about, I hate to say old ways, but they still work. It's just that people don't.
The traditional.
Right. They don't use them. So I talk about, and then for laundromats that might not be doing the pick up and delivery, the wash and fold, but I talk about that also. So I try to have, stuff for the very beginner, but then also take them along the process with somebody. I talked to a gentleman the other day, we met on LinkedIn, and he's like, hey, would you mind if we had a Zoom and I can pick your brain? I said, yeah, sure,
That's great.
And, he's been doing it, he'll own a laundromat for like 4 months,
Wow.
but like we're ahead of him as far as like pick up and delivery and he's just like baby stepping into wash and fold.
Right.
So I think like he could get a lot out of that also.
Yeah. That's great that you've covered a range, I don't want to say of topics, but of experience levels in the industry where, as you mentioned, like with your talk, someone who's just starting, someone who's in the middle, or someone who's been in it, got 10, 11 stores, there's still that one tidbit that they could get out of it that can make a 1% difference in their business, which would be a tremendous amount of increase for them on that scale. So that's great. So what's your goal with the business?
Like a lot of people, I wouldn't mind buying another laundromat, but they're hard to find. We had not really. They're just on the boundary what would technically be a competitor.
Right.
The husband and wife disappeared. Okay, I don't know the whole backstory, but I did have a partner on that one. This one I own.
Okay.
I was going to go to with a partner on another one, and we tried to go through the landlord and say, hey, look, you know what? We'll sign a lease. We'll just take over.
Right.
As it turned out, the landlord thinks he's a laundromat owner. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Just stay in contact with him.
Right.
Stay in contact with him.
So we'll, see.
Yeah.
There was another one, I had approached, and the guy's near the end of his career, but he couldn't pull the trigger because it's been his baby.
That emotional attachment to it.
Yeah, so every now and then I'll just hey, I'm still out here, because that was one of the original ones I looked at before I got this.
That you mentioned, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would love. The one thing I'm not going to do is build one from scratch. I don't know.
I've heard different viewpoints, like the pros and cons
Right.
of it. The store in the episode we released the other day, Allah, his store, it was a supermarket, and he built it ground up, converted from a supermarket to a laundromat. We were talking about it earlier, 11,000 square feet. It's a beautiful store. That's a heck of a build, 11,000 square feet.
Plus I can only imagine what the rent would be. And, I just worry, with a lot of these big build-outs, can you really maximize? I mean, yes, it's nice to have, a play center. If I could, I would,
Right.
And maybe to have a cafe or, I don't know, but are you really maximizing? I've gone into laundromats where, you could bring a football and have a catch. And it's, I do wish I had a little more room,
Right.
But you have a lot of room that you're just not utilizing, but you're paying rent for it.
It's a question to say, and I guess time will tell as we get more data, as our industry matures and we share more and grow. Is there a point where the square footage becomes too much?
Well, it's too big. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do we really cap out when we look at, you mentioned earlier, earnings per square foot?
Right.
Kind of what they do in retail. They look at how much am I earning per square foot. Our industry looks at turns so much, and I truly believe we reached a point where we need to start looking at other KPIs in our industry when it comes to performance. Because my humble opinion, turns are it's ambiguous, right? If you're charging one price, I'm charging another price. I could get 6 turns, you could get 12. But if my numbers are different than yours, my margins are different, you could be making way more money doing less turns than me doing more
Right.
turns. So what's the revenue? So it's going to be interesting as more data comes out over time. I'm a little biased, I guess, because I grew up in, my dad had a big store, and he had one small store and one medium size store. I think would still be considered on the small size. I grew up in small stores. It's been my life. So I'm a little more akin to the small stores. The community, people are more close-knit in the store. Of course, yeah, you want more room. But I think there's more of a connection sometime in those smaller stores. But that's just my opinion on it.
No, I
from just
understand.
growing it. Yeah.
So I don't know if a second one's really in the cards for me, because I don't want it another one. Now, some people are comfortable with it, and that's cool.
Right.
I talk about that in the book, because I'm sure people ask you, well, how far should I live away from the store? And really the answer is, well, it depends how involved you want to be.
Right.
You
What
know?
kind of
I mean, if you
support
want to
system
be
do you
there every day, don't live an hour away.
Right.
If you are going to have people manage it, then live in another state. It's okay.
That's it. Yeah.
But I personally, I wouldn't want one in Atlantic City, because that's an hour and a half.
Right.
So unless I can find one that's in my radius, it just might not be in the cards. This might be it.
That totally makes sense. Awesome. So we talked about so much. You're speaking at excellence. You've launched a book. You've had this laundromat for a year and a half. You're doing all the services, pickup, delivery, drop off. You have the self-service. You've kind of almost checked off all the boxes of someone getting into the industry. And then you said your goal is to look at potentially acquiring more locations that fit into the framework, not too far, et cetera, et cetera. What are you most excited about, or you're looking forward to in our industry as a whole? What do you see coming down the pipeline? What do you see for the future of the industry?
Well, I just think that with the pickup and delivery and the gig economy, because one thing I tell people too, their first thought, if we're talking laundromats and they don't own one, and they're like, oh, buy a truck, hire a driver. It's whoa, just hold on a second.
Insurance.
Relax, okay? First of all, God bless you if you have enough like day one that you actually need a truck. So just relax. But you can like dip your toe into the water with the gig economy. But I think too the gig economy has taught the customers that you can do everything online.
Right.
So it's just a matter of enough laundromat owners getting the word out that you never have to leave your house.
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally, even doctor's visits, you can have, televisit.
Right, it's crazy.
And I'm not sure that's good for society.
I still kind of want to go to my doctor's office.
Yes. But just in general, I think it's good to actually interact with human beings.
Yeah.
But, so I think that, to me, is the big thing, because, you go back to 1980, and, you came to a laundromat because you lived in an apartment, or your washer dryer broke, and until Sears came to fix your machine or put a new one in, and then you never went back.
That's it.
Okay, and that's what people still have that image. And a lot of people don't realize that you just drop off a bag and we do it for you.
It's
or
like
you
magic.
just hit a few buttons, we'll come to your house.
Yeah.
Maybe someday the future is we'll put it away for you, but we're not there yet. But once people realize the pickup and delivery, then everybody's a customer. You are no longer bound to I have to be by an apartment. You don't have to be by an apartment.
Right.
You can put a laundromat anywhere and really have a thriving, wash and fold business. Yeah. And we were also talking about too, I love getting the customers that, bring in their blankets, those king comfort, a lot of profit in those king comforters that won't fit it at home, or you don't want to break the machine. Well, I'll be more than happy.
That's steady reoccurring revenue. Someone who might not bring their clothes, but you can capture those other elements that are in their household. That's huge opportunity for us to look into. Yeah. So you mentioned gig economy for the pickup and delivery. Are you using the gig economy for your pickup and delivery?
We haven't.
Okay. So you do it. You're just doing it yourself.
Yes. I've thought about just experimenting just to see how it works, so I can educate other people. Like if they ask me, "Hey, Mark, how
I've tried it, and this is
right."
my
but the only thing that scares me is that it's not us. And I don't want my no offense to Uber or whoever would do it, but I don't want them to interact with the customer, and the customer's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to put on the ticket." Don't use fabric softener.
Right.
Okay, he's allergic to fabric softener. You got a 50-50 shot that this man or lady is going to come back into the store and say, "Oh, by the way, they said they don't use fabric softener."
Yeah.
Rather than here's the laundry.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
If it's not in the notes. Yeah.
So that's always the aspect that kind of scared me.
I get it. Yeah. We've experienced that on a couple occasions, but luckily in our experience, the good has outweighed the bad working with the gig economy. But as you said, it opens up. When we first started doing it, the travel radius, I think, was 12 miles for them, until New York City decided to pass these different laws about going over bridges and tunnels for gig economy. It just opened up a whole new world for us, because people we have people from upper midtown Manhattan sending their orders to us all the way in Brooklyn, and I would scratch my head and I would look at how much they would pay for the delivery fee. Sometimes the delivery fee was almost as much as what they were paying for their laundry. But they would, and when I communicated with them, they were like, "Yeah, we read your reviews, word of mouth. We heard this about you, and I wanted to send my clothes there."
But that's the great thing for us,
right?
Because the gig economy has conditioned everybody. You want to be lazy and you want to order your Burger King combo. That's fine. It's going to be $10 for Burger King and $10 for somebody so you can sit on your couch. It's a $20 meal.
That's it.
They expect that, so that really takes.
It works to our advantage.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So, Mark, we've covered so much today, and I greatly appreciate you opening up your store to us to sit here and have a dialogue, and you sharing your knowledge and experience, and anything we can do to be of any help or assistance. I go on the record and say, reach out to us anytime, because I greatly appreciate you carving out this time and letting us come into your world and sharing it with our audience. So thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it, because I follow you too. I watch you on LinkedIn. I have your newsletter. I've seen your videos, so I am a mutual admirer.
Thank
so
you.
I do follow you too.
So I appreciate it, and I look forward to us having more conversations.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.